everyone, and welcome back to the first major international motor show of the 21st century, here in Detroit, Michigan.
Now, there are so many exciting new models and concepts that we decided to stay on for another week. And if you didn't watch last week's Motor Week, where were you?
Yeah, we'll let you off though. Here's a quick roundup of all the new cars we looked at last week in Detroit 2001.
Ford wowed us with their 49 concept. Nissan took the wraps off their gorgeous new Z car. Ken Gibson was one of the first to take the all-new Jeep Liberty out for a spin. We looked at a new connection between Ford and Harley-Davidson, and Volkswagen got all hip with their new microbus.
Now, a long-standing tradition here at Detroit is to see the latest concept cars from the Chrysler Corporation. And one other great tradition from Chrysler is that they take shows that they show here in Detroit and put them on the road and actually produce them. And word is that this car, the new Crossfire, is going to do just that. It's about the size of an Audi TT, and it features carbon fibre panels. It's powered by a 2.7 litre V6, which we see in the new Sebring.
Chrysler want to aim this car at people who want a car that they can drive to the office through the week and take to the racetrack at the weekend. And these aspirations are reflected on the inside. Driver and passenger sit in tight-fitting bucket seats. Behind the seats there's integrated storage for a pair of racing helmets. The dramatic styling is the work of Chrysler's 25-year-old designer, Eric Stoddard.
Well, what inspired me was just my love of driving, my love of classic sports cars, and it's just a pure, it's from the heart, and I wanted something that would just make you want to drive it.
And what do you think of the chances of this making it into production in hopefully the not too distant future?
Well, the question is not could we, but should we, and that's why we do these concept cars. We're asking you, the public, and you know, we want to see what the response is, and can we put a business case together for this? Because engineering-wise, we can do it.
Now, word is that if reaction here at Detroit is positive, then this car will go into production, and it will surely fill the gap left by the ending of the Plymouth Prowler production when that stops in 2002. Personally, I think it's a stunning car and expect to see this being produced in 2 to 3 years' time.
The big noise on the Dodge stand was the flamboyant introduction of the Dodge Viper RT10 concept car. Now, you know the Dodge Viper, all stripes and bulging biceps and muscles. But not here, the lines are much flatter, much more understated. It reminds me of part Honda NSX, part Chevy Corvette. It's lost its energy, it's lost its drive, its stance. Thumbs down from me, I prefer the original.
Now, here in America, this car is badged an Escape, and I'm a little surprised that Ford in Britain haven't decided to use that name in favour of the Maverick. It's very much the baby brother of the Ford Explorer, and it's designed to compete with the likes of the Freelander, which is now part of the Ford Group under Land Rover, of course, also the RAV4 and the 3-door Shogun. When it goes on sale, expect to see this 3-litre V6 automatic version and also a 2-litre 130 brake horsepower 4-cylinder manual version. Well, this is our first chance here on Motor Week to get a drive of what will be the Ford Maverick when it arrives later this year. And I actually quite like the style of it. I think it looks smart, it's very small, it's very compact, it's easy to drive, easy to manoeuvre, and just good all round, a decent sized car. It's well equipped as well. You get air conditioning, electric windows, electric mirrors, electric everything, a quality stereo system as well. On the inside, it does look a bit plasticky and very American, but I guess that most people can live with that with what will be a budget priced 4x4 from Ford. I really think that Ford are onto a winner with this new Maverick. If it's priced right, it could really eat into the sales of its rivals. Here in America, this top-spec XLT costs $21,000. We'll have to wait and see how it's priced in the UK later this year. It's roomy, it's spacious, and it seats 5 adults in reasonable comfort. And we'll get a chance to do a full road test on the new Maverick later this year here on Motor Week.
You know what it's like, you're sitting at a tricky junction and the flipping A-pillar is just where you need to see if something's coming. If only someone could make that disappear. Well, our international safety guardians at Volvo have attempted to do just that in a concept safety vehicle that is simply bristling with innovative, clever safety ideas. Well, Peter, this concept car is bristling with new safety ideas. Show me round, what have you got?
Okay, well, let's start on the inside. The whole point of this car is that active safety is just as important, if not more so, than passive safety. Volvo's been very well known for its passive safety, how to protect the occupants in the event of an accident. This car is designed to prevent the accident in the first place. So the driver has much clearer information coming from outside the car into the car. So the vision is the all-important thing. Now, to start off with, inside the car, when the driver sits in, there's a sensor up here, and it sends an infrared beam into the driver's face. There's a camera which then picks up the reflection of that in the driver's eyes, so that then the seat adjusts, so the eyes always reach the same position in the car, whatever height the driver is. And once the driver's head and his eyes are in that position, then everything is the right angle to see out of. You notice immediately things like the see-through A-pillars.
Right.
If the driver's eyes are always in the same position, then we can design the structure of the A-pillars to be able to be seen through. We have 2 different seatbelt systems. We're actually using this show to perform what we call a clinic, a customer clinic, and we're asking people to comment on which is the easier to use, which do they feel more comfortable with. The one that comes from both sides, rather like the racing car belts, or the diagonal belt with a separate diagonal from the other side. So we have two fully operational seatbelt systems, which we will take away data from this show on and decide which way to move in the future.
Right, so work in progress here.
Absolutely, we're using the show as a sort of experimental laboratory.
Here in the States there's been a lot of criticism of the larger SUVs because they tend to be the ones that cause most accidents, and it's revealed that the reason that is that for the very fact that drivers feel they're safer and so they don't drive as well. Are you in danger of employing safety features so that the driver feels invulnerable and then doesn't drive as correctly as they should?
I don't really believe in that. I think not to make a car as safe as you can would be wrong. I think we would have to trust that people do drive carefully, do drive properly. They're responsible people. So I think that this idea that people get into a big car and feel totally protected and totally safe from anything, maybe there are some people that feel like that, but I tend to think that people would rather save themselves and their car from having any form of accident. We have a system which is a camera based onto the mirror there, and if the driver just driving along the road on a motorway decides he wants to move out, he's looked around, he hasn't seen this car moving up fast behind, even if he just touches, if he starts the indicator going to move out, a warning will come on, and a red light will flash in here to say, don't move, there is something, something coming up behind.
Well, I think they're all terrific ideas. The one that I do find slightly far-fetched, though, is this personal communicator, a device that can measure your heartbeat and tell you whether somebody might be hiding in the back seat when you get in your car. How often has that happened to you, Peter?
It hasn't happened to me, funnily enough. But I think there are incidents, actually, in this country where people have managed to gain access to a car and we've been lying in wait, let's say, for the owner to come back. So this will tell the owner before he even gets near the car, there's somebody in there. Of course, on the very, very odd occasion when you could forget that you've left your dog, or hopefully never, but a child in there, then that will warn the driver that there's somebody still there.
Now, more and more is being done to improve safety in cars. Here at the show, Volvo have announced that their see-through A-pillar technology will hopefully be introduced to their range in the not-too-distant future. And this is a car which can see in the dark. Yes, finally, General Motors have announced that some of their cars in the Cadillac range will have night vision, the basis behind the military technology that we see in some of the helicopters. So, how does it all work? Well, let's look at the background to this innovative piece of technology.
During Desert Storm, U.S. soldiers used a form of thermal or infrared imaging for their nighttime maneuvers. Cadillac, with the help of the Raytheon Systems Company, is using the same technology to revolutionize driving safety and security. Cadillac engineer Ed Zellner explains how the night vision system works.
Everything in nature has some kind of a temperature, and those differences in temperature are perceivable by an infrared camera. In the grille, we have a night vision camera that picks up the differences in the temperature of the outside surroundings. That camera then translates the image to a small picture tube-like device that then projects that image up onto the windshield.
Zellner says hot objects appear white and cooler objects appear black with night vision. Car buyer Gary Steppen had no idea what he might see when he volunteered to take a test drive.
There was something, a deer or something there, or a dog. The minute it moved, my eyes caught it.
Immediately, our eyes couldn't compete with Gary. Night vision allows a driver to see 3 to 5 times farther than with low-beam headlights. And that's important if you consider that nighttime driving represents only about a quarter of total driving, but accounts for more than half of all traffic fatalities.
There's somebody walking right beyond that car. Look at that. Isn't that amazing? Wow. Did you see that? Oh, you couldn't. I did.
I see someone over to the right side, a person waving their hands in a car. And there's the car right there. I think it does increase the feeling of safety because you know you're able to stop ahead of time if you can see something so far up the road.
Well, we've still got loads more important stories to show you, so keep watching. We're going to look at the GM concepts and also look into the financial troubles that the once mighty Daimler Chrysler Corporation are now in. So keep watching this Motor Week special from Detroit 2001.
This is GMC's rather funky-looking Terror Cross concept car, and it's one step on from the Terror concept car you may remember from the Detroit Motor Show last year. Now, they're hoping that elements of this will go on to reinvent the sports utility vehicle. Not another one. So how has this taken things on from the Terror concept?
Well, definitely beginning with the form vocabulary, the overall look and feel of the vehicle, what we like to call the design philosophy. We call that industrial precision for GMC. It really began, like you said, with the Terradyne, and this is definitely an evolution of that, next step or the next expression of that design philosophy.
And what is that philosophy? What are you trying to achieve with this?
Well, we use the words industrial precision, and that really describes the look and feel of the vehicle. The form vocabulary, which refer to the shapes, the way the surfaces are treated on the vehicle, the intersections. We have harder edges, more beveled edges, more of a mechanical, architectural type influence in the way the surfaces are constructed. Then we cap the design off with brushed metal details. The details such as the headlamps, the wheels, things like that are, again, mechanically influenced. So you have a very clean, contemporary look to the vehicle.
I'd be very surprised if this complex angularity ever makes it into mass production. And besides, a supercharged V6 engine is never going to win any green awards in Europe.
Well, it's been a really poor 2000 for the British car industry. Everyone's been forced to reduce their prices.
Rover was decimated by the pullout of BMW, Ford's ended car production at Dagenham, and also Vauxhall at Luton as well. But it's no better here in the United States, surprisingly. General Motors, Ford have all got their problems, but particularly over at Daimler Chrysler. Since the £26 billion merger or takeover, the share price has more than halved. Losses are mounting up day by day, and creative, talented people are leaving in droves. So what's going on? Well, earlier I spoke to the Sun's award-winning motoring journalist, Ken Gibson.
Well, obviously the cars are still the stars of the show, but this year's show has been totally dominated by fears of a recession in the American car industry. Daimler Chrysler clearly have major problems and are almost shades of BMW Rover in that situation. What they've done is they've brought in two very senior Daimler managers. They are now clearly in control of the American company. They're taking some very tough decisions. They've laid off thousands of workers. I think there's going to be more layoffs to come, possible factory closures. But Chrysler has one bonus. As you will see here, it can make great cars. I think the answer to Chrysler is redress the problem of their efficiency and then concentrate on doing what they're best at, getting out new cars onto the market.
So talk of doom and gloom and possible recession here in the States, what sort of effect could that have on the UK car industry?
Well, you have to look at the facts, and clearly they have got major problems. 50,000 car workers have been laid off in the last week, thousands more in the components industry. They're looking at drastically reducing their production figures for the first quarter. They're going to make 500,000 cars less than they intended to. That's serious figures even in the land of plenty.
The new Mini was unveiled in Britain a few months ago, but this is the first time in a long time that the Mini name has been seen flashing across North America. Now, we all know that the Americans pay something like a quarter of what we do for petrol, but that's changing. Gas prices are going up here, and the big SUVs are starting to get a dirty name. And that may well have opened up a niche in the market for small, well-packaged, funky and economical cars. The Mini Cooper brings a smile to your face, and I really hope it does well here. And why shouldn't it? After all, VW successfully reincarnated the Beetle here. But there is a difference. The Beetle has a huge heritage that the Mini doesn't. You only have to think of all those horrible Herbie the Love Bug movies to realise how successful that was over here, whereas very few people remember Michael Caine in The Italian Job. But more generally, Americans are wary of small cars. They feel underpowered to drive, and people feel vulnerable inside them, especially out on the highways with one of those massive rigs bearing down on you. But despite my reservations, others do feel very optimistic about the future of the Mini in America.
Now, when I say Thunderbirds to you and you don't think of Tracy Island and dodgy puppets, I know that you're a real car fan. Did you know that President Kennedy was such a fan of the Ford Thunderbird, he had 50 T-Birds in his inaugural procession in 1961? Did you also know that the car has been revamped for the 21st century? And this is it. And it's a stunning looking car. It's been designed by guru from Ford, Jay Mays, who's responsible for most of Ford's design and production. And it just looks drop-dead gorgeous. It goes on sale in the US in 2002. Unfortunately, officially, it's not coming to Britain though. Certainly not in right-hand drive form, which I think is a real shame.
Lexus unveiled its much heralded entry into the sports convertible market here in Detroit. Muscle mixed with mollycoddling defines the all-new luxury class Lexus SC430, which turns from 2x2 hardtop coupe to breezy convertible at the usual touch of a button. The body styling is supposed to be reminiscent of the fresh-aired excitement of the French Riviera, although if you can even squeeze yourself into the bolt-upright back seats, you may be thinking more Black Hole of Calcutta. The new rear-wheel drive SC430 convertible is powered by a 300 horsepower all-aluminium double overhead cam 4.3 litre V8 engine.
Before we leave our exclusive look of the Detroit Motor Show 2001 here on Men and Motors, let's take a look at some of the highlights.
We're back to normal next week as we leave the Detroit Auto Show. Richard Hammond and Brendan Coogan get to grips with 3 off-roaders, and I'm finding out whether lovers of open-top motoring should take a look at second-hand versions of Volkswagen's popular Golf Cabriolet. Join us again next week.